All right, Trumpers, come and get me. Let's have a serious conversation for a second. Mamdani, great man. I think that we are about to see for the first time that America is tired of these old presidents. Now, yes, he is the mayor of New York City. And I do think that eventually people like him and his age group at 33 will be taking over the presidency one day. But even look at Gavin Newsom in his early 50s, he will be running in 2028. Donald Trump has done this to himself. Donald Trump has done this to the Republican Party. The Republican Party is failing, and they're pointing the finger at Donald Trump because Donald Trump has done this. You got to remember, Donald Trump only got in power to save his family. He did not get in power to help you. And I don't understand why you people can't understand that are out here supporting him. He did not want to go into office to help you. I don't understand that. And for you to vote for him based on your faith or Christianity, and the man says he's not even going to get into heaven, you people got to wake the fuck up, okay? Wake up. It's time. It's time to stop this dumb shit and start basing your votes off what matters in this country. Lower gas prices, lower food costs, lower housing, better paying jobs, and quit this dumb shit over religion and your LGBTQ and abortion shit. Those people have rights, and if you want to get an abortion, do you, boo. But at the end of the day, the families that need to put food on the table, you people need to quit voting. Ridiculous. Magus, thanks for fucking us.
Donald Trump has used his auto pen again to pardon someone else who's been convicted of defrauding the American people. Former Tennessee House Speaker Glenn Casada, who was sentenced to 3.5 years and convicted of federal public corruption charges. Now, him and his former chief of staff were running a massive scheme in the state of Tennessee. This scheme was to win taxpayer-funded mail business from state lawmakers. And they were found guilty. We're talking of 17 and 19 convictions. And when the White House was asked about this is what they said. The Biden administration's Justice Department significantly over-prosecuted both for a minor issue. You see what we're noticing, ladies and gentlemen? Donald Trump has a type. Yeah, he seems to be pardoning anyone that commits the same crimes that he's committed. And he shows a lack of concern about everyday American people. With pardons like these, you can't help but wonder, is he really pardoning people, or is it the auto pen?
All right, this is a reminder for everybody who still doesn't get it and needs to hear it, that the Republicans can open the government today on their own without a single Democratic vote. The Republicans control all the branches of government. They've passed the CR in the House. The CR is now in the Senate. They could pass that bill with 51 votes. All they have to do is get rid of the filibuster, which Donald Trump himself thinks they should. They could get rid of the filibuster today. They could pass the bill with 51 votes. So how is it possibly a Democratic shutdown if Republicans can open the government without a single Democratic vote and don't? No, instead, the Republicans are choosing to keep the filibuster. So they're acknowledging that they could open the government on their own. They're choosing not to. And instead, they're seeking help from Democrats. Well, if you're seeking help from Democrats, then you have to negotiate, which is what happened in December when Mitch McConnell was in the minority and Schumer was in the majority, and the Democrats didn't get rid of the filibuster. They went to the Republicans in the minority, and you think Mitch McConnell said, okay, Chuck, whatever you want? No. He said, all right, let's negotiate, because this is how government works. But the reason why Americans think Republicans are to blame for the shutdown, the reason why the Republicans got crushed on Tuesday night, is because the Republicans control every branch of government. And so if they're choosing not to open the government on their own and they're choosing to need Democrats, then you got to do this unique thing called actually working with Democrats. Otherwise, for good reason, the Americans blame you for the shutdown, and they're right.
The President of the United States has been ordered by the courts to feed Americans, and he's fighting it. Did I just hear a British man named Gucci say that out loud and I decided to repeat it? Yes, hell yes, I did. Because it's that important. We keep repeating it. It's insane. The president has been ordered by the courts to feed Americans, and he is appealing that decision. On top of that, he was terrified after Mamdani won his election in New York City, and he immediately said, we're going to focus on affordability next year. And now, this morning, he's saying, oh, actually, no, because affordability is a scam. Parents that voted for him are struggling to feed their kids this morning because he hasn't paid out SNAP benefits. And he says affordability is a scam. This is coming from a man that doesn't even know what the word groceries means. And JD Vance says SNAP benefits aren't for everyone. It's wild how transparent this whole plan is. They never wanted to feed the poor. They've never wanted to pay federal workers. So they're using this as a way to stop payments and starve people. And really, like, no matter how many times you repeat that, it never gets easier to hear. So many times, because I feel like I have to keep pointing it out over and over again that nobody benefits from this shutdown except the Republicans in Washington. They don't have to deal with affordable health care. They're avoiding that debate altogether. They're avoiding releasing the files. They're avoiding swearing in Adelita Grijalva. They're avoiding paying out SNAP benefits, which is something they've been wanting to do for generations now. They are avoiding paying federal workers. I mean, people are working for them for free now. It's Donald Trump's wet dream, honestly. Just the idea of a judge telling the Trump administration, you have these funds over here that, like, you have to use. The judge is telling them point blank, no, this debate we keep having about whether or not you have the legal authority to tap into those funds because this is or is not an emergency, or you have the power to do so or not. I'm telling you, you do. And I'm telling you that you must. And they're saying, no, actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to appeal the decision, which tells me they never wanted to pay that money out in the first place, and they want people to starve. They want people to starve because he's a comic book villain, a narcissistic comic book villain.
Hey, what's up, America? This is a message to Donald Trump about boycotting or sanctioning Canada. And what I'm about to tell you is an absolute outrage, and the Canadian government needs to be punished. So for the last couple of months in Canada, there's been a debate about ostriches being killed by the Canadian government. Approximately 400 ostriches. Well, these people that own the ostriches went back and forth with the Canadian government for quite some time, even getting indigenous tribes involved to help out to protect the birds, getting courts involved to go against the government. Even Robert F. Kennedy Jr. offered to take the ostriches to America, but the Canadian government refused. Well, a while ago, the Canadian government seized the area where the birds were, and they also seized the birds. Now, there had been a back and forth fight until last night when gunshots were heard because the Canadian government started shooting all the ostriches to death. And so throughout the night, for a couple of hours, you could hear crews executing ostriches so that they could be carted off and incinerated. They're now all dead from what I understand. Even though every avenue was available to the Canadian government to save these ostriches, they did every single thing they could so that they could make it as bad as humanly possible, not only for optics, but also for the people of Canada. The Canadian government, the way they acted was that of a totalitarian dictatorship. So instead of listening to the people or us or anyone else in the world, the Canadian government simply put their fingers in their ears and started executing ostriches. So I thought it was bad under Justin Trudeau, but Canada has become a full-on dictatorship, a left-wing dictatorship. So because of the stupendously horrific behavior of the Canadian government and their actions to oppress the Canadian people, I'm calling on all Americans and the Trump administration to boycott or sanction Canada. On top of it, if possible, I would love to see tariffs raised on Canada to punish them for doing this. I'm also calling on Donald Trump to sanction members of the Canadian government that were involved in this so they won't be allowed to travel into the United States for any purpose whatsoever. The Canadian government, and especially the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, needs to be punished by the United States government for this absolute outrageous travesty that the Canadian government has bestowed upon their own people. I love Canada, but fuck the Canadian government. Fuck you. Our government can take the hit. Let's boycott and sanction Canada. Hell, after this bullshit, I would almost nearly declare Canada a hostile aggressor.
We all keep stating the obvious that Donald Trump is not going to live forever. And it's true that once he goes, the Republicans are going to quickly fall apart because cults of personality never survive the death of their leader. And we know that the reason why he keeps wanting to do all these projects of building the new ballroom and building his bunker and building all these architectural projects is to solidify his supposed legacy. Because he knows he's on borrowed time. But because he's a narcissist, for him it's always been about staying out of prison and getting revenge on the people who tried holding him accountable. For the Republicans, it's about staying in power forever. Because they also know that he's terminal. But Project 2025 is about giving absolute power to the president, not to Trump personally. Trump has already been ignoring all the federal courts. And now he's saying he doesn't need Congress to declare war for him to go into Venezuela and just kill people. He's also saying we don't need the Congress to appropriate funds and do any of their job because they're shut down right now and he can do all of that. Those statements right there show that he is ignoring the other co-equal branches of the government. This is what the Republicans ultimately want. Their plan is not to make Trump president for 1,000 years. They know Trump's an idiot. They actually hate him too. They're just trying to lay the groundwork for the next president, who they plan to be a Republican who is smarter than Trump, is going to rule with an iron fist for 1,000 years. That's why they had a Trump humper buy out Dominion voting machines, so they control the votes in 27 of 50 states. They don't care about the damage that Trump causes now, because once they have full control, they don't have to worry about anybody speaking out against them. It's not about Trump. It's about the person that they install after Trump.
For 4 years, Donald Trump was talking about Joe Biden always falling asleep. Now you have Trump always falling asleep. This isn't the first time he fell asleep the other day. The gaslighting. I have never seen an administration gaslight like this current Trump administration. They'll tell you all the things are terrible, yet they're the cause of everything that's terrible. Whether it be SNAP, whether it be Medicaid not getting extended under the Affordable Care Act, whether it be the Affordable Care Act not getting extended at all, and premiums going up, but they'll say that it's the Democrats' fault for not opening up the government. But Democrats don't want to open the government because of what I just said, the Affordable Care Act premiums going up, people losing Medicaid, and it's just ridiculous. You want to gut people's health care, and with it, in the process, gut people's SNAP benefits until the government opens up. The gaslighting. You want to talk about war, yet create the Department of War from the Department of Defense. A peacetime president, he says, yet he's bombing ships in the Gulf of Mexico, bombing ships, sending missiles into Iran. So you see the gaslighting and the hypocrisy? I have never in my life seen anything like this. I don't care, Bush, as bad as he was, I didn't see gaslighting on this level. This is another totally different level. Joe Biden was a way better president than Donald Trump, because Joe Biden, his policies would not have the government closed right now. You wouldn't have to worry about SNAP getting cut. You wouldn't have to worry about the Affordable Care Act getting cut. If Joe Biden were president, we'd be in a whole different scenario right now. And shame on you, racist, misogynist, uneducated, voting for this orange. And shame of you, and shame on you to the people who voted for this narcissistic orange who's demented.
So first there was a judge saying that Trump had to release the contingency funds for SNAP. And then Trump only released 50%. And then another judge said, no, you have to fully fund SNAP by today, Friday. And now Trump's saying, no, we're going to appeal your decision. We don't want to feed our citizens. We have a president trying his hardest not to feed his people. What kind of person doesn't want people to be fed? I'll tell you what kind of person doesn't want people to be fed. The kind of person who doesn't want poor people to be alive, because poor people are a drain on all economies. So instead of fixing your economy, just kill off the poor people. That's their concept. This is why you see every single liberal creator trying to help people during this time. And you see every single conservative people saying, you don't deserve food, fuck off.
The 2025 elections this week prove that Donald Trump and the Republican Party are incredibly weak, and key bellwether races indicate that they are very likely cooked in the 2026 midterms. Let me explain. I'm an independent journalist that's been covering Donald Trump and American politics for over a decade now. I've made appearances on MSNBC, CNN. I documented every single day of Trump's first term, and I write a best-selling Substack newsletter in which I've been covering Project 2025 since 2023. And I'm here to say that the elections last night were a huge win for Democrats and a massive loss for Donald Trump and the Republican Party. We saw New York City, Virginia, New Jersey, Maine, Georgia, California, the list goes on. These key states, we saw shifts to the left in almost every single district. We saw votes defy Donald Trump's aims, and we saw people stand up against a wannabe authoritarian regime that is so far skirting their responsibility to take care of the affordability crisis in America. And there are so many indicators in these races, so many things that happened, and so many key bellwethers that we can see identify trends that could potentially impact the 2026 midterms. So I want to dive into the details here. Stick with me. You're going to learn a lot. I want to start with Virginia. And it's not just because I grew up there and got a little bit of a bias towards it. It's because Virginia is a key bellwether state. Now, you might be thinking, what is a bellwether? Well, it's a thing you can look to as a potential indicator for future behavior, right? So in the case of Virginia, Virginia has often been looked at in off-year elections as an indicator for future voter behavior. So in 2017, for example, when Ralph Northam ran for governor, I had the chance to interview him and I was there on the ground to see the shifts. Ralph Northam won Virginia by 9 points in 2017. Now, this was huge because we saw suburban shifts. This is where we saw the first indicators of Trump losing women at scale in these northern Virginia suburbs. Loudoun County, for example, we saw that similar in this election. But at the time, it was a big indicator of things to come because in 2018, we saw pretty much identical voting behavior in those same counties that we also saw in other suburbs across the country. So we are seeing similar indicators here in this Spanberger win. So now that we've established why Virginia was such an important bellwether state, you can see why this was such a massive win for the Democratic Party. We see Abigail Spanberger beating her opponent by nearly 15 points. And if you drill down into the closely watched counties, the ones that really matter, you look at Loudoun County, for example. Abigail Spanberger won 64% of that vote. And that's important because it's 8 points more than Kamala Harris won it by in 2024. That is a key swing. And there are suburbs like this in key districts across the country. So that's really important, right? If you look at these individual counties that swing over to the Democratic side, these are key indicators going into 2026. And that's not all. There's a big Trump factor here that we have to talk about in Virginia, right? DOGE, the federal worker cuts, these Project 2025 purges, hundreds of thousands of federal workers, nonpartisan civil servants that have been purged during this time. They live in Virginia. And we saw that vote show up. 61%. All right, so this is a CNN exit poll. 61% of voters that say they have a federal worker or federal contractor in their household, they voted for Abigail Spanberger. 61%. She won that by a huge margin. That's a big deal. We see Trump's direct attacks on Virginians backfire on him. This is what happens when you legislate by vindictiveness and don't care about the affordability crisis. Authoritarianism has a cost, and we see that cost being paid back with votes in Virginia, because Donald Trump imposed that cost on the American people. So that's a huge factor there. So that's what we have there. We have Virginia, a really key state, rebuking Donald Trump unmistakably and really boosting a Democrat there. We saw Mikey Sherrill win by 13 points. This is key because this is also a state that moved a little bit to the right. We saw districts and states across the country last year move to the right. Republicans assumed some mandate that they do not have. This is also important because Donald Trump targeted a New Jersey tunnel project that was going to link up with New York. He targeted that funding, him and Russell Vogt. Again, you don't mess with people's livelihoods. You don't mess with things that actually help them. You will see a backfiring. You will see that come back to get you. Mikey Sherrill ran against that. She talked about that project. She talked about affordability. And that's another thing. Across all of these candidates, affordability was a central focal point. They were focusing on helping people, while Donald Trump and the Republican Party are focused on helping themselves. That has been the through line between all of these races. And that brings us to Mamdani. Here in my new home in New York City, Mayor Mamdani is incoming. We see the first Muslim mayor of New York in the post-9/11 era. It's really remarkable. And he won with really a resounding grassroots campaign that had volunteers across the state. It was really inspiring people in the area. And he won on a message of affordability. It was a really resilient, disciplined message. And that's the through line between all of these people, right? We see Mikey Sherrill in her own way talking about the high cost of energy on the ground there. She was talking about that. We see Spanberger doing something similar. This through line between these candidates is affordability, right? And people are trying to do takeaways to fit their ideology. But I think what this indicates here is a big tent party in the Democratic Party here that is able to run candidates that fit the state and fit the district and fit the locality. You can have a Democratic Party that is tied together on trying to provide affordable housing and affordable groceries and reducing costs at the central level. And then broadly, you can tie them together in this way without having to have one litmus test for every single Democrat. In all of these races, we saw demographic swings towards the Democrats, Latino voters, young voters, women, all of them. These demographics are swinging back towards the Democratic Party. Huge swings. And again, big tent party with candidates that fit their district. I think that is the message out of this, just like in 2018, where you have different people from different, ideological spectrums, right, fitting under one roof to rebuke Donald Trump and his authoritarian presidency and offer affordable policies to the American people. I think that's the focal point here. And that's what ties a lot of this together. New York, Jersey, and Virginia weren't the only wins for Democrats. We saw Prop 50 in California. Gavin Newsom's redistricting push to push back on Trump's national gerrymandering effort and try to offset those Texas House seats, those 5 seats. We see that won huge, over 60% of the vote there. That's a massive win. And also on top of that, we saw statewide Georgia seats, right? These public service commissioners, right? They're huge. These are 2 statewide offices in deep red Georgia. That's another indicator Ossoff should be looking to, right, for the Senate. A huge win. We saw in Maine, an anti-mail-in ballot voter ID requirement there. That was pushed back down. Huge win. Pennsylvania Supreme Court retained a 5-2 majority. The list goes on. I could keep going. Democrats won pretty much everywhere. And this is a huge win, not just for Democrats, but for democracy itself. There's been this idea, this notion that votes don't matter anymore and there will be no midterms. I'm telling you, if Trump could rig elections, he would have rigged these, okay? Democrats won. The people won. People came out and they won in resounding numbers, and it is going to spook Republicans. They are already afraid of losing the midterms. Their fear is going to increase. Now, that could either mean they end up doing increasingly authoritarian actions, or they reverse course. Maybe they end the shutdown and they try to do some other things to patch it up. But my inclination is they're going to probably continue to overreach. And that's going to continue to benefit Democrats ahead of 2026. There are going to be a lot of people trying to take a lot of takeaways from this and say, oh, this means Democrats need to go, further to the left, or they need to be more moderate. My takeaway is run the people in the districts that fit those districts. Run the people in the states that fit those states. There'll be a broader ideological debate in 2028 on that primary stage. But ahead of 2026, we're going to see candidate district fit. We're going to see candidates that meet their potential district. There'll be more moderate candidates in an Arizona or a Virginia than there might be in a New York. We're going to see. But all I know is that this is a massive, huge indicator of Donald Trump's weakness and the Republican Party's weakness, and they have a lot to be worried about. For months, I've been making videos, writing articles, talking about how Donald Trump's authoritarian facade is meant to mask deepening political weakness, how his approval rating has been below 40% repeatedly in multiple polls, how he's underwater on major key issues from immigration to the economy to inflation, how he's lost ground in key demographics that helped him win in 2024, and how the Republican Party is down in the generic ballot about 8 or 9 points, give it whatever poll you look at. They are down. And right now we see real-world validation of that concept, real-world confirmation of the Republican Party and Donald Trump's deepening significant political weakness. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Please feel free to subscribe, follow me here, and of course, check out my newsletter. A lot of my work is there. Consider becoming a free or paid subscriber. You can go to ahmedbaba.news or go to my link in bio to figure that out to support this independent journalism. But my message for you is that you're more powerful than you realize. The Republican Party, Donald Trump, they want us to be afraid. They want us to think they're all powerful and that there's nothing that can be done. These elections prove votes still matter, elections still matter, your defiance matters. Every time Trump is defied, it matters. 2026 is just 1 year away. We're going to see this and potentially bigger if people don't let their foot off the gas. So keep it up, keep staying engaged, and see you around.
Donald Trump just totally spiraling out of control last night. He held this meeting with Central Asian nations, and Donald Trump's message to the press really had nothing to do with that, but he said everyone needs to stop talking about affordability. He says everything is affordable. I've made everybody's life in America great, so just stop talking about it. He's like, Thanksgiving, the costs are 25% less. Walmart did a powerful report. This is what he was saying all last night as he spirals out of control. That's your message right now? I don't want to hear about affordability. That's a direct quote from him. Here, play this clip.
Talk about the cost of Thanksgiving and the cost of living through Thanksgiving and enjoying Thanksgiving. For Joe Biden, it was 25% more than it is for me. At a later time, our energy costs are way down, our groceries are way down, everything is way down, and the press doesn't report it. The press reports whatever the con people say. I call the Democrats con men and women. They make up numbers. But when you look at the 25% reduction in cost for Thanksgiving between Biden and me, meaning this administration, that's a tremendous number. It's the biggest reduction in cost in the history of that chart or whatever it is they do. That they do a synopsis of everything. They cover every element of Thanksgiving meals. 25% down. So I don't want to hear about the affordability because right now we're much less.
And by the way, he kept on talking about this Walmart report, which he keeps saying it's a very powerful report, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Here's the thing. The 2025 Walmart report is all about this like shrinking, disastrous economic times. So the 2025 Walmart meal contains 15 items, while the 2024 meal contained 21 items. Additionally, most of the brand items in the 2024 meal were replaced with great value, kind of generic Walmart-owned items this year around. That's the sign of a great recession and potentially a depression, Donald Trump, what's actually going on. And you should be reminded as well that before Donald Trump did that Central Asian meeting where he said, everything's affordable, stop talking about it. He held this, again, another bizarre press conference with like Dr. Oz and RFK Jr., where one individual who was with Eli Lilly literally passed out on the floor. Donald Trump didn't give a crap. A great photo by Andrew Harnick of Getty right here. As Donald Trump standing up, the guy's like passed out and like suffering on the floor. Trump can't be bothered. He just wants the cameras to be on him. And then when they resumed that press conference, Donald Trump just straight up fell to sleep, like he was like snoring and sleeping during the press conference. I'm not being hyperbolic, like actually sleeping. And look, Trump and MAGA are running scared right now. How scared are they?